All right, good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whenever you guys are listening to me, or middle of the night. How are y'all today? I hope everybody's doing good. We're going to go over the pediatric variations. All right, we're going to go over the PowerPoint. Let's see, identify safety, risk, and parent teaching for toddlers through adolescence. That was on chapter 35. Just going to pull that book up too, go along with it. All right. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. You almost got the switch. Thank you again to my group. You guys gave me the most thoughtful gifts. I mean, my family has never given me thoughtful gifts like that. It was awesome. Thanks again, you guys. You did too much. You guys have been awesome to me. I really appreciate it, all of you. Okay, identify safety, risk, and parent teaching for toddlers through adolescence. Toddlers, the safety risk for toddlers, just about everything. I think saying everything would count for them. Injuries remain a common healthcare problem for children during the toddler and preschool years. Toddlers and preschoolers, mobility, physical risk, lack of understanding of the presence of hazards that they don't even know how they're going to get, that they're in danger. Sometimes children are left to play alone for short periods of time, and toddlers and preschoolers can quickly get into dangerous situations. That is true. It takes about 2 seconds. If people haven't ever had kids before, or if they have a lot of kids, when they can sure get away from you quick. Even my little granddaughter can get away from me quick. Just walking in and saying hi to my aunt. So every time that they come in for a visit, or every opportunity that we get with them to do some teaching with them, or go over it with them, or that's the one time that they'll have time to maybe sit and focus on and really think about some of the risks that their child could be at. So there's car seat safety, making sure they have a car seat. The fire department used to give some free ones in Claremore, and if they were out of car seats, they would even adjust and stuff the ones that they had, check them and teach them how to put them in. Motor vehicle crashes, the little ones are supposed to ride in the back seat. Hold on a second, I'm going to try to pause this. Well, anyway, car seats and say motor vehicle accidents are supposed to be in the back seat at first with their car seats. They're supposed to be sure that we talked about drowning, burns, all this stuff. So drowning, as soon as they can, be sure and put them in swimming lessons, because that's really important. They always go swimming with their friends, or or maybe you've got some friends that are spending the night with you, and you don't know how good they can swim or anything. So it's really, really important to see if you can get them to take swimming lessons. Or on page, let's look and see if there's anything to go by in here in this book. I don't have on this PowerPoint. Yeah, there's a table on 878 and 879 about this PowerPoint more. On the AAP, the pediatric recommends swimming lessons for all children by the age of 4, and for children from 1 to 4 if lessons are available and if parents believe that they're ready. Nursing interventions should concentrate on relaying to parents the severity of the risk of falls, drowning, and other hazards. So they used to have swimming lessons out there at Claremore at the rec center, so I don't know where they are, if they're offered around here somewhere. Probably changed a lot with COVID, but it's really important to get them to take swimming lessons if you can. Burns, they can get burned easily. Be sure and put the handles for pots on the stove inward and not outward. Anything that they can reach, like cords that hang down, like crock pot cords, coffee pot cords. Be sure that your bath water, that your hot water tank is not set as high as it can be set, you know, at the house, so they won't have hot water, get the water too hot for their bath. Electrical safety, putting stuff in where you get the plug-ins. My granddaughter can take those little clear things out that are supposed to block it up. So she's 18 months old, so some of them can. The toddlers, electrical safety, she loves to play with the chargers, any kind of chargers. My kids used to try to put forks in there, the boys, so be sure about the electrical safety. Choking hazards, be sure to go over the how to unchoke them with parents, you know, when they come in for a visit. Make sure that if they haven't had CPR, show them, demonstrate on something, how to unchoke their baby if they were to get choked at home. A lot of parents, like we were talking about, I've seen them with the new babies, when they get choked, if they're new parents, they'll lay them on their back and hit the nurse light when they were in the hospital, or run into you from the waiting room or the car with the baby on their back. My baby's choking, and be sure and show them how to lean them forward. Be sure the home environment is safe, like when they can't get out the back door. My little boy, one time when he was 3, his brother that was 18 was home with him, but he got out the front door and went next door to the neighbor's house, and no one even knew he was there. He was in the back room with their daughter. Scared us all half to death. So then we had to put chains on the door because he got the lock open. So a lot of them are pretty crafty. Needle sticks in the home, be sure that they have their medicines locked up in a cabinet with the medications all need to be locked up. And needles, like if there's sewing needles around, or if there's drugs, they need to not be drugs, but if there's, just be sure and talk about any needles or any kind of sharps, then they need not where they can reach them at all. And gun safety, of course, they need to be all, if they have a gun, put it locked in a cabinet, a different cabinet than the ammunition. The ammunition needs locked up as well. Falls, they're going to climb. Be sure to you talk about, like, let them know how easy they can climb all the way up on, like, hutches, refrigerators. There's some bookshelves and hutches that will fall forward with them. Like I was saying, one of my friends, her grandson, he was 2 or 3 or maybe 2.5, and he climbed up her big old hutch that she's had forever, and it fell on him, broke his femur. So they can, if they're not bolted to the wall or fixed to the wall or something, those big shelves can fall forward. Poisoning, be sure that they have poison control's phone number on their phone, on their, put it somewhere where they can see it, on the refrigerator, if they don't have a house phone, you know, they put it on their cell phone, so they can be sure and call poison control. Because some things they want you to, you know, have them throw up, and some things they don't, but they'll be sure and tell you if you know what they've gotten into. So be sure and tell them it's really important to have poison control's phone number. Falls, it talks about how good they are at climbing, you know, and they are. I had 5 kids, and one of them could climb up on anything, I swear. Supervise closely. Give them some safe climbing toys. Like outside, they have those. The slides used to be metal and hot in the summertime. There's some plastic slides now that they can maybe climb on, or find them some little short things maybe to climb on if you're at your house. At the park, they've got some neat little short toys now. They've got like a sign up for 2 to 5-year-olds. Maybe you could tell them to check out some parks, you know, if they live close, where they could take their kids to the park to get out. On the poisoning, it's got toddlers can get into medicine. They can open those lids. Be sure that, you know, you talk to them about that a lot. They have that number, you know, be sure they have a number. And if you got any stickers, give it to them again. If you don't have any stickers, look that number up and give it to them. It's in our book right here on page 878, 1-800-222-1222. And if you don't know it, you can look it up on y'all's phones, I'm sure. And but anyway, just don't assume that they'll know how to look it up, because a lot of people will just say, yeah, 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 throughout the doctor's appointment, probably like you guys do when I'm talking to you. No, but say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they, you know, just be sure they understand. I'm just giving y'all a hard time, you know. Okay, on burns, be sure that you have your pot handles turned in so they're going to be tippy-toeing and try to pull anything over they down. They don't understand how dangerous it can be. My daughter said this week, my granddaughter, she said that she was making her some French toast. So she had the pan on the stove and the grease in the pan or the butter, whatever she was using. And she said she just went in the bedroom for a minute to look for a charger or something about her phone and left my granddaughter in there. And she came back and my granddaughter had pulled down the bowl of the mix of the eggs and everything for her French toast on her head, so it could have been that pan with the hot butter and stuff in it. So they can sure reach and they will try to get into everything because they don't know not to. On swimming pools, be sure if y'all have a swimming pool or you go to someone's house that has a swimming pool, be sure that they don't get away from you. Even if you have to put one of those little kid leashes or whatever on them, don't let them get out the door because they get out the door and they can get into somebody else's pool really quick if they have access to it, or a pond. And there was a little boy that got out of the apartment there at Claremore years ago and got out in that pond by the apartment complex and drowned. And so they can open the doors and get away. So be sure and talk to them about that. Motor vehicle accidents, be sure that they have their seatbelt on properly and keep them rear facing until they're 2 years old. And be sure, let's back up on the drowning. Be sure and talk about if these people take their kids out, surely they won't. But if they do, what surprises me is a lot of them take them down to the Illinois River on that float or down there when the water's up. Be sure if they're going to take them down there, it seems like there's drowning every year too, to put life jackets on them. Talk to them about how fast it happens. And look, at least those floaty things on their arms or something, life jackets are what they need to put on there. And if they're going to be down, that's really, really important. And by 4 and 5, the kids can open their seatbelt. Be sure that they are bolted in before you start. And talk to them all you can about not going into the road. If their ball goes into the yard out in the road, if their puppy goes out into the road, it's on pedestrian accidents. They'll run across the road and go get their toy or go see their friend. One little girl got killed, they said, years ago at the store. Her dad went in to pay for the gas and he didn't know she was following him. She found some change in the door and was running in there behind him to get some candy. So be sure that you talk to them so much about safety when they come in. We never had to wear helmets about 100 years ago when we were riding bikes, but it sure is a good idea. They have some helmets and they won't hurt their head so much that it's really important if you can teach them right from the back. And they won't know the difference when they start learning how to ride a bike or a trike, even to start them off riding that little helmet. But maybe let them pick it out or something like that where they'll think it's part of their idea and they like it. Okay, the injury prevention now, it's on 15 months to 18 months. It's about the things we've already all those things we talked about. Be sure they don't have access to alcohol or drugs. My daughter's friend's boyfriend had some marijuana over at her house. They were dating and he had the marijuana at their house, and her child got into it, but DHS took her child away for a year. So be sure that it wasn't even her drugs, but the baby, they was down where the baby could get it. So be sure and talk to them about that. Be sure that they know, talk to them if they know CPR, the airway obstruction like we talked about. If there is community CPR offered usually, or be sure that you do talk to them about obstruction. And the batteries, there ought to be check the batteries and the home alarms. We shouldn't wait till they start hollering. I call it hollering when the batteries are running out. You should do it monthly. Check on them monthly, or like one lady said that she always changes all hers when the time changes on a regular basis. Ask Ask your doctors if they can talk to you about discipline. I wouldn't let other people spank your kid, because you don't ever know how hard they're going to spank them, or what they, it's better that you take care of your own discipline on that. If they're staying with somebody, they can have them sit down on the couch or have time out or something. But be sure and talk to them about, be sure they're not left in a parked car. Young children die every year getting left in parked cars or lock themselves in. Even outside playing, there was an old freezer out in this grandma's pasture, been there forever, and 3 kids locked themselves in that. Or I guess that latch fell over when they got in the freezer, and they couldn't figure out how to unlock it, and they died. So kids think of stuff that we don't even know, so just be sure that they take the time to go out there and see where they're playing, and look around and see if there's anything that they see, that would be harm to them. On the leaving them in the parked car, be sure and, it usually happens when someone takes them to daycare, or someone that's not used to taking them. So maybe have them pin like their a pacifier, or put a diaper in their lap, or put some kind of a baby thing up there by them, so they'll remember that they've got the baby back there if the baby was to go to sleep or something and they somehow forgot. Desired outcomes for the child, of course, are integration of safe practices into car seat safety, all kinds of things. They need to feel like they're understood by their parent, and they need to be sure that they're probably going to feel like the parents being real strict, and then everybody's being strict. They need to feel safe, and that we're all just taking care of them and trying to keep them safe. And that is a picture of one of these days we're all going to be relaxing. You guys are all going to have successfully passed your test, and you're going to be swimming with your friends or your children safely. Okay, injury prevention in the school age. Injuries are common among school age. They have more independence. They may be playing with their kids. They may, a lot of kids at school age, my boys wanted to hold the firecrackers in their hand. We didn't allow them to, but boy, if they ever got away and went to somebody else's house, one of them said that they had Roman candle wars, so at somebody else's house, and the parents let them do that. So it's just awful, because their injuries, there's so many injuries and surgeries on July 4th from hand and face injuries from firecrackers. They may get hurt in sports like football or soccer. Teach them about safe practices again, and it just, it sounds like a lot, but just every time they come in for a visit, you don't have to give them the whole, just for whatever age, whatever, talk to them about what kind of sports they're interested in, what are they doing, and then just handle what they're doing for their age, for the developmental age. On bike safety, be sure that they wear a helmet. A lot of parents said that a lot of parents didn't know that their kid knew where their guns were, but they did. So just be sure that they're locked up. As far as, and the matches and lighters too, and any kind of like fire starters or anything that would, a lot of kids like to, light the lighter and make it flame up big. They play with fire, they experiment with stuff. So be sure and teach them about how it can get them, how it can hurt them too, and what to do if they get something in their eyes, like to hurry up and go flush them out immediately. Be sure that they have a phone number. The kids have someone that they can get a hold of in an emergency. And be sure and talk to them about stranger danger all the time. Talk to them about that, because those people can just kind of even drive by and like ask for directions, or say that they're looking for their lost dog or something. And one guy pulled a grown woman in through the passenger door. Okay, I'm going to try to pause this. Hello? Hey. Okay. No, I'm in my office recording. So I've got the door open. I guess I mean, it's not open, but it's like, it's where you can come in and out from the hall. It's not, it's not propped open. Huh? It's not propped open, but that's where they can get in. Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. Now let's see back where we were. Oh, the stranger danger. They can. This man pulled up and he was just acting like he was asking this girl for directions, and she just was talking to him through the passenger door, and he was driving, and he leaned over there. People that are crazy or on drugs or something, or some can be so strong. He leaned over there and grabbed her shirt and just yanked her in the car. So be sure and tell them not to talk to strangers and to be careful. Injury prevention teaching topics. 5 to 8, use a booster seat. Don't put them in the front seat. Be sure they know how to swim. Protect them with sunscreen. That's really important. They have like all the way up to, I think it's SF50. Be sure and talk about how it's important to talk to them about if the house ever caught on fire, like how to get, which way you're going to go to get outside, how to stay down low, how to feel the door if it's hot, if the door's closed, and have a plan, like if they're going to get outside, where to meet, like we're going to meet outside over here, something. So it's really important to talk about that, because when it happens sometimes, and it seems like it always happens when there's like with my mom's friend, how it happened that night. She had an extra child, and then she'd been taking some medicine, and she counted kids and thought she had all the kids outside, but she left her one little daughter in the house, and then they couldn't get to her, and she died in that fire. So it's really sad. I mean, so when the parents come, just say, to talk about how bad it is when the kids eat batteries, So be sure you're talking about batteries. Then you can go ahead and talk about set, and be sure the batteries are good for their fire alarms and stuff like that. And you can just put it in conversation where they won't feel like they're being lectured, but that how you're just trying to help them keep their kids safe. As far as fire safety, no one ever thinks their house is going to burn down, and hope it doesn't. But if it does, so they can get everybody out safely. Talking to them about riding bikes or whatever, like wearing protective gear, whether it's football with a helmet, or soccer, it's their legs, maybe their elbows, any kind of protective gear for activities. Be sure that they have a number that they can call, of someone they can count on. If nothing else, they can call 911 if they were in a mess. They sure could. One time my little boy was 3 and I worked night shift, and I had just gone to sleep, and the police woke me up. He had called 911, and I went in there, and he was 3 and his brother was 7, and the policeman was acting all cranky, but he was trying not to grin, and he told him it's real important not to play around with that number. He asked him, why did he call the police? And he said, because you're supposed to call 911 when you need help. And he said, Mom was sleeping and I needed help with Michael, because he was arguing with me about something. But anyway, so then the cop went over 911 if a stranger's bothering you, or if you're lost, or, etc. But they do answer their calls. So if they, if they're in a feeling unsafe, they can sure get a hold of 911 at least, if they don't have anybody's other person's number. But if they're old enough, they need to have an emergency number they can call. 8 to 10, they use a booster seat until the child sits upright. Do not place them in the front seat of the car. Continue to reinforce teaching. Talk to them about the high noise levels too. This is for age 10 to 12 when listening to music for a long, long time, like through their earphones and stuff like that. Okay, injury prevention teaching topics 13 to 19. Injury is the greatest health hazard for adolescents as well. So, and adolescents have a whole new, maybe they're not playing in the plug-in, but maybe someone gave them some drugs or didn't give them to them, but slipped them in their drink or their food. Be sure and talk to them about, drugs, about not just taking drugs to be cool. One girl, I know y'all probably get tired of my stories. Well, I don't know, but maybe you don't. But anyway, one girl had never even been out with her friends drinking and stuff like that. And so for graduation, she went out with her friends the first time and died of alcohol poisoning because she never had drank. And so she was being cool, she thought, and just drinking with her friends. And like my son, he tried K2 when he was 14 and he almost died the first time he ever tried K2. His heart rate went up to 270 off and on all night long. And I had to take him to Children's and they had to flush his system out. And his friend has grown up and it's been years and he still uses K2, I hear. So, so be sure and talk to them about how dangerous drugs can be and the first time, and alcohol as well. One thing you can tell them too, my teacher told me that in the speech class, but he told his kids that, and I told my kids that, and they used it about 3 times. If they ever get in a mess, but they still want to act, be cool or not be embarrassed around their friends, they can say, "What time is it? Oh gosh, I had to call mom, or dad or whatever," and they can call you. And when they call you randomly like that, then you already know to say, "Come home." And they'll be like, "What time was I supposed to come home?" And just say, "Come home right now," and just have it like that. And then, and then that way they perfectly feel safe. And then they don't feel like, their friends don't know it's them trying to get out of there. Twice, two different sons of mine called me in the middle of the night, and they walked away from wherever they were, or they weren't supposed to be, but they called me in the middle of the night to come pick them up, and I did. I left work and went and picked them up, and I was glad to do it because I was aggravated where they were, but I'd rather go pick up my kid than have them stay in a dangerous place and end up possibly getting hurt or killed. One lady told her daughter to be, back when one of my kids was almost a senior, told her to be home at 9:30 no matter what. And she was at the Nemar Center just hanging out with her friends in Claremore talking, and the roads were kind of wet. And she waited too long to start home. And so she drove really fast. And then she had a wreck and got killed on the way home. And I'm sure her mother would have rather have been late than dead, of course, So tell them if they're going to be late, just be late, but don't speed. And, if they feel dangerous, to get out of there. One of mine crawled out the window in the bathroom and got away from when a bunch of stuff was going on in the house, and he didn't need to be there in the first place. But he had me come get him, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. But he was down on the main road by then, and I said, "Where were you?" He wouldn't tell me, but at least he was safe. You know what I mean? So just have them stay safe and take care of themselves, and hopefully talk to them about making friends with people that won't put them in dangerous situations, or to make good choices, Be sure and talk to the parents about machinery as well. Kids will grab, if a dad's got a nail gun or a drill or anything that's already plugged in, or maybe it's not plugged in, but all they gotta do is turn it on. If it's where they can reach it, they will try it. Have the kids, adolescents, talk about not driving when they're tired, not drinking, not driving drugs, wearing a seatbelt, and for a while not hauling anybody around in their car because they're not used to driving that long. Well, if they haven't been driving that long, they need not to drive they're not used to driving when it's raining, they're not used to driving when it's snowing, so. Many of the major causes of mortality and morbidity are closely linked with social influences. Like sometimes when they're riding with them, they'll be like, go fast, or let's race this person, or let's race that person. and really try to teach them to be strong and make their own decisions, and not, they're the one that's driving the car, so they know how fast they're comfortable driving, not to be influenced into doing stuff like that, because they're going to be the one that's going to be in trouble or dead. Environmental factors, some kids live in a wonderful environment, like these kids on the left on the slide, and the other kids have a terrible environment, so they are affected by their environment. Same way when they're growing up, some kids have a chance to take a shower and have wonderful clothes, and some kids live under the bridge and they still try to act all cool, but it comes across as mean usually. So the environment is everything around them, everything around us, and when the parents have a bad environment, it makes stress on the kids, it makes stress on the parents. A lot of abuse happens at that time when the parents are stressed out, or if the mom has a mean boyfriend around, or an abusive boyfriend, and that's when a lot of kids get hurt. Resiliency, thank God kids are resilient, but they still are affected by the stress and the environment, and thank God most of them can bounce back, but some of them, it really hurts, really hurts them emotionally, if not physically. So I guess it's really, I'm trying to say it's really important to teach the parents, and when they're young, they're gonna see things differently later on, but just teach them to teach their child, and if their child is an adolescent, teach their child different ways to think, give them ideas how to think and how to be strong, and how to be for it to be a good thing to stand up for yourself, and it be a good thing for it to be assertive and take care of yourself and not be a follower. And hopefully the parents live in a good environment where the kids can make friends, and maybe have a faith-based activity. Maybe they can get involved in church or the communities, and the youth leaders have some good influences in their life. One of the researchers said that everything that the kids do, Nancy Gonzalez says it was the way they were raised. Not everything. I mean, we can raise them, we can be an example to them, but if they don't get along with their parents for some reason, or they don't respect them very much, and they're more influenced by their friends, and their friends aren't a good influence, they can still be influenced by them. And so it's really, really important to try your very, very best to keep communicating with your child. And all kids want to feel listened to. Even now, we all want to feel listened to, really heard, really, we want someone that gets us, so all we can do is the best we can do, and pray for them and try to keep them safe, and then teach them, make them feel good about themselves, make them feel like they're good enough to make a good decision when they find themselves in a bad situation. The goal of discipline is to help them learn right and wrong, so having it says to start, like when toddlers and stuff, preschoolers want to sleep with us, to have a routine even then. Teach them how to comfort themselves, so to speak, a little bit, have a routine, read them a story, rub their back, tuck them in, and then, talk to them about, okay, this is your bed, you're going to sleep in your bed, but I'm going to be right here. And then they'll be safe, feeling like they have a routine. The environments that the adolescents live in, the kids live in, have a really impact on the kids as well. So if it's a healthy environment where there's a youth center they can go to, or they can go play basketball or hang out with their friends somewhere, if they get away from their technology these days, they've got so much technology, a lot of them want to stay home and just stay on their technology. And like we talked about, it kind of is safer these days in the house, but anyway, if they need to have a good environment, or even if their friend's house is safe where they can interact with their friends, and when they go to school, it's good if they have a teacher they can talk to, or a mentor. They have that big brother, big sister program. It's really helpful if they feel like they know there's someone that they can talk to if they can't talk to their parents. The poverty is a big, big factor. It can make the parents feel stressful. Children are poor, have unmet dietary needs probably. On the lead poisoning, it's not so prevalent anymore as it was a long time ago. The cribs were painted with lead and the toys, but it did say some toys from other countries still have lead. So getting their blood drawn, they can check to see if there's a lead levels when they get their blood drawn too. If they live if that needs to be done and checked on. So nursing management, if a child is going to school, the school nurses have they need to know if if they have like a peanut allergy, or they have asthma, or they have some kind of medication that they need to take every day. And so they need to the nurse will be doing a thorough health history, a thorough assessment, medications, any equipment that they're on, problems, interventions, and a plan for an emergency situation. So that's really, really important for the school nurse to have that. There's no way to identify a child from appearance sometimes. Some kids try to hide the status and not let you know that they're homeless or living in the car, and their degrees of personal hygiene just depend on if they have access to any facilities or not. Stress, the effects of stress on adults is well documented, and the kids can be impacted with stress as well. That could be including like moving to a new home, a school, marital problems, abuse. So like adolescents they may be in school all day, and then they may be in sports and music, and they may have a job. So be sure and talk to them about trying to get enough sleep. Because when they are young, they sure need enough sleep, and they'll even feel so much better. And that'll help them make better decisions too. So if you can help them at all when they come in, if you can, if they're talking to you, or if you can even just talk to them and be sure that you can be familiar with what your community could offer them. So give them don't just say, well, call for help if you need it, go put a phone number in their hand, go take the extra effort to, like at Claremore, I looked up SafeNet's phone number and posted it, where when they would come in with an abusive situation, they would have a number to call right there. The doctors, I'd give it to the patient, look and see what's available. In every community, it's different what they offer or what's available, but just find out from where you're working and give it to them. And kids manifest stress in different ways. Some get really quiet. Some cry all the time. Some say they're sick. My little girl, when she was getting all stressed out with friend situation at school, I think it was 5th grade, 6th grade, her stomach hurt all the time. So they all act different. Some little kids can be regressed, start bedwetting again. They can be hyper. We all handle stress differently as adults and as children. So nurses can help by teaching good coping strategies, talk to them about their lifestyles, teach them maybe some little exercises they could do, talk to them about, ask them what they do, and kind of, it says that, and I'm glad it says that, not that, to reminds me not to give them, to avoid unrealistic expectations. Like, don't say, okay, well, when you get stressed out, let's just get on a plane and we'll go to the spa and stay for a week, and man, that'll help us. Most of us can't afford that. You know what I mean? So something that's realistic, like shut your door, or just be by yourself for a little while, or run a hot bath and sit in there, or, a teenager, get some sleep if you need more sleep. One of my coworkers said that she drives around town and just screams her head off, and then she goes home and then she's all happy, and at work she's all happy, but then when she needs to scream, she just goes for a ride in her car and she drives around and screams her head off. So I turn on the TV and watch Hallmark movies or Andy Griffith or some shows you've probably never heard of, but that's my thing. So we all probably like to listen to music. You guys probably probably while you like to listen to music, maybe you like to pull out your school books and read them. No, I'm just saying, find out something that you can do for stress, and teach the kids that too. Teach them something like, where do you live? Okay, well, do you have a book? Do you have access to the library? Do you have, can you draw? 2 of my 5 kids can like to draw, and they're good at it, so just find out what they can do and kind of give them some ideas, The families influence them greatly, some kids, have a really strong will early on, but their families are our culture influences us, so, but some people are really open. Some of the kids are really open to, wanting to do different or be better, and they're open to more learning. So then some will say, well, mom and dad don't do that, or mom and dad don't make me do that. So always make sure that you make them feel the best you can, that you're there for them to make them feel safe. That's all. Be sure that you know the person at the child care that they're getting child care from. There's so many mean people in the world these days. It's kind of scary, so be sure that you got them. If they're going into childcare newly, they have to be accredited. That still doesn't keep them safe sometimes, but they sure have to be sure that they've been certified by the state. And if it's a person that watches kids at home, they usually have to go through, some inspections, and they never know when they're going to get inspected. And they usually can watch 4 or 5 kids at their house. But be sure that the kid is safe, best they can do. The community can help a lot if they've got, if they're in a community that's got some programs, like Head Start's a wonderful program. Sometimes they have after school programs, free counseling, sometimes they have like the YMCA, like the Y, they can go hang out. And the culture group will be a lot of affected, like on the reservation, they have a lot of, they have times when they have dances in their own culture. I mean, like dances with their dress, like the fancy, with like the crows would have real beautiful feathers and things that they would beaded outfits that they would wear, different than their Cheyennes. I mean, like our culture, we go to football games, and we all vote for OU. No, but we all, we have our own cultures that we like to do. So things that your kids are going to be influenced by that as well, and they'll be influenced by their friends, or their nice friends, or their mean friends too, as well. If they don't have, they just need to feel, everybody needs to feel included. So nurses need to remain non-judgmental and be open to talking to the adolescents, and nurses can talk to them about tobacco in private, and they can listen to them, and they don't have to, they can assure them that they're not going to talk to their parents what they're told them, but they can let them feel that they're safe to talk to them, and they can teach them. Once you talk to them a little bit and let them kind of calm down and not be defensive with you, then they'll be more open, when they figure out that you're not judging them, that you really are listening to them and you really do care about them, some of them will really talk to you. Some kids start smoking so early when they start sneaking their parents' cigarettes. And when you're talking to them about keeping the meds locked up, be sure and include those vapes. One little boy died from drinking the liquid vape that you pour into some of those vapes. Not all of them have that, but some of them have the liquid vape. He was like a 16-month-old, I think. So very, very sad. Substance abuse, be sure and talk to them about that, like we've been talking about. Be aware of how I never knew that spraying gold spray paint into a brown sack and huffing it, I didn't even know what that was, would drop your potassium. As a 20-year-old, 6 foot tall, healthy young adolescent, dropped his potassium to 1.7 or 1.6, and he died, so that's, they don't need to mess around with that. That K2 is like a bath salt there. It made my son's heart rate go out of the roof, so, that those are really dangerous. So it's best that you can, teach them to find something else to do. It's not that big of a, it's not that great to be involved in the club that does the drugs and the drinking. So, if they could be involved in soccer or baseball or football, or get a job if they don't want to do that, something that would keep them busy. A child may use drugs or alcohol to deal with stress, or because his family does, or because his peers do. And that's true. But you could teach them, one of my friends, I didn't even know he was my supervisor, but he was my age at work. And I didn't really realize he was abusing Lortabs. And I said, well, just quit. I mean, why can't you just quit? And he said, well, I guess I can, but then I'm going to have to start smoking pot. I said, why? He said, I'm not going to just handle life, just handle it without doing anything. He's like, what do you do? Eat? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I do. I guess I do. But I'm just saying, I haven't always been fat, but yeah, I guess I do. But I'm just saying we all do something. So, I mean, Some people run, some people are still very strong and beautiful and healthy and don't do drugs and alcohol. So just teach them how, hopefully, they'll have someone that can influence them in a good way and learn how to handle their stress and stuff like that, even if their mom and dad isn't a good example, or even if they don't live, they have been in foster homes, that they could want for themselves a good life, and to realize how much power they can have if they start making really good decisions. I guess we don't. I guess we don't. Maybe I don't understand sometimes how influential we can be. Not to everyone, but to some. When I would tell people, I'm not judging you because you smoke. I'm trying to keep you from my husband that died. He used to smoke outside. Then he would come in and it'd be on his clothes. And both my sons at different times had to be admitted and had to be in that big old oxygen tent. And they had asthma and they had RSV. And, I was just trying to, when I start telling them, it's really hard when your kid's in the hospital and they want to go home and you want to go home, and they have to stay under the oxygen, and just trying to, that's just one example, but like teaching them things to keep them healthy and strong, where they don't have to be in places they don't want to be. And and kids are lots of work. You have to teach them. Someone kept us safe this long. Keep them out of the street, keep them from eating the poison, keep them from, and you can't always, and you still can't keep them from getting hurt sometimes, but we can try. All we can do is the best we can do, so that's what we're there for. It says in the last few decades we have become increasingly sedentary with all of our computer, with COVID, with all this stuff. So primary outcome is overweight, obesity. Kids don't really, at school they don't do as much physical activity anymore as they used to. If they're not playing sports or something, and they're not, they need to talk to them about exercise, talk to them about maybe walking. If they have a dog, maybe they can take it for a walk. If they can't go out, maybe they can just exercise in the house somewhere. Maybe they can do some yoga, do some, some kind of activity, even in the house. There are those video games we talked about, that you can dance with those video games or exercise with those video games on TV, so, and there's always those exercise DVDs that you can put in. You can just keep right up with those people. No, but there's things that we could teach them to do. So violence, that's really bad, and it's really gone up a lot for all the people that have been staying home, for being with their abuser all the time. So teach them about, give the mom and sometimes the mom is the one doing the violence, but just try to provide a safe place for them if you can, if you're in a position to do that, when they come in. They may be telling you stories that not the truth, how they got hurt. That happens a lot too. So if a child comes in from being hurt, our number one goal is to keep them from getting more hurt right then, put them somewhere safe right then. So, and then go from there. If they're getting bullied, a lot of times they won't tell you. They'll just tell you they don't want to go to school today. They don't feel good, kind of. Or if they do go to school, they'll be by themselves, and then they'll say, well, that some of the teachers will say, well, they just sit by themselves, and they say, well, I'm just not as good as those other kids. That's a sign of bad self-esteem too. And they are as good, so a lot of bullying happens just because that bully's jealous, but you can't tell them that when they're really, they make them believe it when they're really getting to be the victim of bullying, because it's really, really, really hurtful. People if they got in trouble and they had to go to juvenile detention, they can still get hurt in there from the other kids. They can't, probably watch them all the time. Hazing is horrible. I think they are trying to do away with that, but they've been saying that for a long time now. That's stuff they do to you while they say you can be in their little fraternity, or you can be in their little group, and they have you do all this crazy stuff, drink too much alcohol or do this or do that. And so just teach your kid over and over. You can't stress enough through the years. Hopefully you'll see them as a young kid to stand up for themselves and to be, be strong. So we got to maintain our nurse-client relationship. As the kids get older, they can talk to us about cigarettes. They can talk to us about sex. I mean, we've had lots of girls come through and deny they were pregnant. I mean, deny they were pregnant, and then we talk to them in private. Well, you are, so yeah, here's your results. And well, didn't even have sex. Well, instead of saying, I know that you did because here's your results, you can start with saying, well, let's talk about some stuff you've been doing, and kind of just ask her what she's been doing. What's her, let her tell you what she's been doing. You wouldn't believe some of the knowledge base that they don't have sometimes. One girl thought if they had oral sex, that wasn't sex. And one girl thought if they had sex standing up, then she wouldn't have gotten pregnant because she was standing up, so it's just something else, all the different things that they believe. But just our main thing is to maintain a non-judgmental attitude and to value that nurse-client relationship and talk to them and then develop we can talk to them and let them feel like we're not judging them. We can talk to them and have them come up with a plan to help them. And then their anxiety, you can just see it and you can feel it. Their anxiety most of the time just starts going down when they realize they finally found someone that is talking to them and that we're there for them on their behalf. We are required to report violence and stuff that we see. And that's just through our chain of command. We can do that. But our number one is keeping that kid safe for, if it's a kid coming in or anybody that's been hurt right then, keep them from getting further hurt that day right then. Child abuse is common against kids. That's sad. It's usually their parent or the mom's boyfriend or friend that's over there at the house. It can be from all socioeconomic groups, not just the poor people. And neglect is very, very terrible too. And you can't just see a bruise on their face. Neglect is their emotional needs aren't getting met. Maybe they're not getting talked to. Maybe they're not getting listened to. Maybe they're not, you can be neglected, and that's sure it's hard to see because they'll all act different. You don't have a bruise on your face, but they're getting. So kind of talk to them every time be sure that you take time and talk to them every time and kind of see what's going on, in their life, in their world. How was their day today? What they do today? And be sure that if you have somebody that you think is that Munchausen syndrome, be sure that the number one thing is watching their interaction and documenting the interaction between the mom and the child. Don't just be sure that someone's in there with them all the time or right there watching them where they can watch them if you really think that. And then you can document it and you can keep the child safe, and then you can, get the mom turned in and out of there as quick as you can. So that's very sad, but that is a true thing that still happens. Poisoning is the second leading cause of unintentional home injury death. If a child gets batteries or iron or medicines, some get hurt from right away. Some can make it through it, unscathed pretty well. But boy, just be sure and try to keep it. Tell them it's really important. It's really important that kids are very smart and very fast early on and can get into lots of things. Really important to keep their meds locked up. Ingesting foreign objects. 100,000 cases by children under 5 years old. Coins, toys, buttons, batteries, and glass are like horrible things that they can do and that hurt themselves. That can perforate their intestines. It can get lodged in their trachea. So most foreign bodies can pass on spontaneously, but however, some get lodged, or like a battery can really hurt them. Lead poisoning has been successfully prevented in much of the United States. There's no safe lead levels at all. So the lead in the paint is the most common source of lead for preschoolers. Paints on toys and crafts from foreign countries may still contain lead, so be sure and check that. Like if someone's from another country here to visit you or something like that. Children are at greater risk for lead poisoning because they absorb and retain lead. Lead is very harmful to kids under the age of 7. Impaired mental function can occur with blood levels lower than 5 micrograms, so it doesn't take very much. Nursing care centers on screening, education, and follow-up. Pain. Pain is an unpleasant sensation that's either acute or chronic. It is perceived in response to tissue damage that increases the stress of children in all ages. Their responses depend on their age, their development, the culture, and their prior pain experiences. Every child, adolescent, and infant has a right to adequate pain control. Pain assessment should include the use of a valid and reliable pain assessment tool that's appropriate for the child's age and development. Healthcare professionals once believed that children felt less pain than adults, and so as a consequence of that, undertreatment of pain was based on these attitudes. Healthcare professionals now recognize that children and infants of all ages feel pain. Of course they do. And they may not complain when they're in pain due to a limited vocabulary or their experience, or they assume that the nurse knows they're in pain. Maybe they're afraid that the treatment will be worse than what they're feeling. Be sure that you go over these pain scales, the neonatal infant pain scale, NIPS. The NIPS is designed to measure procedural pain in preterm and full-term newborns up to 6 weeks of age. The newborn facial expression, cry quality, and breathing patterns, arm and leg positions, and state of arousal are observed. The faces, legs activity, cry, and consolability, FLAC tool, is designed to measure acute pain in infants and children following surgery. It can be used until the child is able to self-report. The FACES pain scale, this scale is very commonly used for children 3 through adolescents. The nurse explains the meaning for each face, and the child selects the face that's closest with the pain they are feeling. The adolescent pediatric pain tool of adolescents can indicate pain on a human figure. Okay, that is one PowerPoint. And let me get the other PowerPoint. Okay, I don't know if you guys are still there. I hope you are. This is the pediatric variations. It's the other part. So, um, sorry, you guys. Should have had both of them pulled up. I just like to entertain you guys, you know. No. Hospitalization, whether it's elective, planned in advance, or an emergency, it's stressful on the family, on the child, on everybody in the family. So we are challenged as nurses to provide individual care for the child. You know, like just because he broke his leg, we can't handle it like we did last week, you know, because that's a different family, a different everything about them. So we will do an individual care plan. I mean, of course, there'll be some things that'll be, you know, they'll probably both get x-rays, maybe a cast, maybe medicine, but we will individualize their care. So their psychosocial, their developmental. And to minimize the stress of the hospitalization, we'll provide support and education to them. You know, right away though, don't be always, you'll learn and be, and you know, when people are like in an, when their kid first gets admitted or first, you know, they just get there. Sometimes we want to just like in our mind, we're going click, 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 getting our chores, quote unquote, done. We can't do their teaching really until we get everybody calmed down, you know, so let everybody get calmed down, like kind of like get them something, offer the parents something to drink or, you know, make them some coffee or something. And then we can get our teaching done in there. Make sure that their kid is stable and not hurting. So developmental stages, we'll go through be sure that they will be addressed with their developmental age. So hospital setting is chapter 39 in your book. If you want to make some more notes, I mean, not right this second, but I'm just saying if you want to, you know, all the hospital stuff is different per their age, of course, and infants and toddlers. You know, what is big about them? It's a separation anxiety. Infant hospitalization can be traumatic, especially if the parents aren't allowed to stay. Surely they are with an infant. Common stressors for the infant include painful procedures, immobilization, like even just holding them down to give a shot, or if they have to get, when they're newborn, getting the circ done. Anytime you hold them down. The most stressful for the infant is separation from the parents, separation anxiety. So and then the toddler, this is the group most at risk for a stressful experience. And that theirs is a separation anxiety as well. Preschoolers are their fears, fear of being alone, fear of being in the dark, fear of abandonment. They might feel guilty about this. They might think that someone's punishing them because they're sick. And the adolescents try to maintain their independence. Some of the adolescents let you take care of them. Some try to act like, oh, I'm good. I'm fine. I got this, you know. And they may be all frustrated acting because they're trying to be all that, but they really aren't. So the family responses to hospitalization is going to be just like, you know, they're all going to be stressed out, and it's going to be the difference of how they handle stress. Some are going to handle it fine. Some are going to be, maybe one blames the other. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe they're just, depends on how bad the situation is. Of course, how bad their child is hurt or sick. But we can just, number one, take care of the child, get them all, you know, stable. And then in the meantime, get the family somewhere and then teach them about, you know, this is what happened. This is what we're doing. This is our plan. And then include them in the care, you know, and we always, you know, start, okay, well, he's here for pneumonia. He's going to be getting breathing treatments, or he's here for asthma. This is a nebulizer. We're going to be doing this, or he's got a broken leg. We're going to teach him how to use crutches or, you know, walking boot, whatever it is. But we will just include the family, you know, and kind of help decrease their anxiety as best we can. Pain, acute pain, is a sudden pain. Like the kid we had on peds, you know, he said that he was sleeping and he woke up, and Kat, I think that was yours, you know, where he had the appendectomy that was ruptured already. And I asked him if he'd been hurting for days and days and trying to be tough. And he said, no, his parents were both gone to work that night, and he woke up and was hurting and called his mom. And she left work and took him to the doctor, and he had a ruptured appendix. So acute pain, just like that, you know, chronic pain is something that they've had for a while, like juvenile arthritis or cancer. And every child and infant perceives pain, their understanding, their response as they develop. And a number of factors influence that, like whether, you know, whether their parents or whoever they live with, when they have pain, like, oh honey, sit down here and take these 500 pills, or you'll be all right, or, it depends on what they have been and what they've learned about pain from their caretakers. If they're very young, they don't know what to do, so they're not going to understand that. Culture, that's very much of an effect too. And so children always remember, children are going to have individual responses based on their past experiences. And the younger the child is, they've had less time to, acquire what we've taught them or acquire these behaviors, so. And even as adults, just don't forget that time that, some of my coworkers were smart enough, because this lady came in for her 5th baby and they said, I don't know why she's acting like that. This is her 5th baby. I said, probably because if I broke my leg 5 times, I'd probably hurt 5 times, and I'd probably need pain medicine 5 times. So don't ever be like that. I'll get y'all. Don't ever be like that. Just, every time you get hurt, it's going to hurt. And it doesn't matter if you've done it several times, so what, so, but just remember that everybody's an individual. And of course, there's our scales again. Be sure and be familiar with these scales, and depending on the child, on the developmental age, and that's what you can use these scales and ask them, kind of get an idea when they really can't tell you, oh, I'm hurting like a 5 out of 10, get an idea of what their pain level is. On their medication, be sure that you give them their medication, check the right dosage with their order, with their weight. I mean, and if you ever pull up medication, if it's in a syringe and it looks like a lot, seems like a lot, or you're pouring it into a cup, or you're getting pills and it's like a lot of pills or a lot of liquid, be sure that you even go get a drug book and check how much you're supposed to, like within the range, because everybody can make mistakes. A doctor can make a mistake, a pharmacist can make a mistake, so we're all just humans. So just be sure you check the order and check the, the weight and everything. So, and when you do give them medicine, be sure and monitor their vital signs. The thing on kids, the main thing is their respirations. Some, if you give them some medication to do stitches or they have some kind of procedure, just be sure and watch their respirations and document their respirations, like every 5 minutes and keep them on the monitor. But don't just, and for respirations, don't just watch the monitor or say, well, they're on the monitor. Be sure that you watch them breathing, that you're watching their chest rise. You see it for your own self. They do have movement there. So anyway, just review everything. I think we've covered everything, and I'll be praying for you guys. I believe in you, and good luck. Have a good weekend, but study and have a little bit of fun, and then study, because you're almost to getting a break. Okay.